Let's go on to the third major problem we're confronting, and that is infectious diseases. We've got something called COVID-19 at our doorstep right now with a whole bunch of variants. But, even if we got an effective vaccine for COVID-19 or COVID-20 or COVID-22, these viruses are not going to stop because of the warming of the planet we're going to continue to have, because of crowding, not just in livestock, but people are going to continue to have pandemic after pandemic after pandemic. So what I'm going to tell you now, I think is extremely important. The first indication that COVID-19 had something to do with people's health and what they ate came from China, even before the disease went to Europe or the United States. What the Chinese noted was that those individuals who got COVID-19, got the virus that caused COVID-19, that the people who went on to hospitalization, need for a ventilator, and death were those people who had comorbid conditions. That means additional problems with their health, and these additional problems are due to chronic ailments. Chronic diseases like the ones we talked about in the beginning: heart disease, diabetes, high blood pressure, cancers. People who have these underlying conditions have a much worse outcome when it comes to getting infected with this virus. The CDC, that's the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, they came out with their report in 2020, the spring of 2020, and they noted also that people who have underlying conditions, obesity, heart disease, kidney disease, diabetes, they had 6 times the risk of hospitalization and 12 times the risk of death. In Europe, the British Medical Journal, one of the most respected journals out there, says that you need to fix the food if you want to survive this virus. There are all kinds of reasons a healthy diet helps prevent serious complications of this disease and future diseases. One is that if you eat a healthy diet, you have healthier barriers so that the viruses can't get in. When you eat the Western diet, you knock down your barriers between, say, your gut and the food in your gut and your bloodstream. Same thing with the respiratory barriers. You knock them down between the air and the bloodstream. And once these barriers become ineffective, then the infections have a real opportunity to get into the body. Plant foods have all kinds of substances, and you could go through days and books and so on to name the substances that have antiviral, anti-inflammatory, anti-disease activity. Plant foods are loaded with these components called phytochemicals. One of the interesting observations is that cholesterol, the body's burden of cholesterol, affects whether or not you go on to have serious complications. And what investigators found is that people who have high cholesterol levels, which would be those who have those comorbid conditions, right? You keep going back and you see, yes, those who eat the poisonous diet, yes, which is high cholesterol. Cholesterol is essentially only found in animal foods. So what they've identified is on the barrier between the bloodstream and the airway, on that barrier is a lipid raft, a raft that allows the virus to transfer across it from the outside into the bloodstream, into the lungs. It's called an ACE2 receptor. And that receptor, when it's combined with cholesterol, you end up having more permeable receptors, larger receptors, greater numbers of receptors. In other words, you absorb more efficiently the virus that causes COVID-19, the coronavirus, into your body, into your lungs, and you end up dying or really darn sick. The medical business, they realize this, and they put out a observation that this mechanism of cholesterol being involved in whether or not you end up having serious complications. Remember, cholesterol is just a marker as to how rich your diet is. So it's much broader than just pinpointing cholesterol. But the medical profession has drugs that pinpoint certain things. Here's one: statin drugs. They lower cholesterol and they find a reduction of going on to more severe disease that was very significant by just taking statin drugs. But let me show you what we accomplish. This is in our basic study of nearly 1,700 people. We find a significant drop of cholesterol right away. The average drop in cholesterol is 22 points. And people who have very high cholesterol, they even get a greater drop in cholesterol in 7 days. This brings me to the thought that I believe that even after you get the diagnosis of COVID-19, even if at that time you eat the rich Western diet, I believe it's not too late. I see people heal in a 10-day or 12-day program. Now it's a 12-day program over the internet. And you see them heal. The body doesn't want to be sick. And you give it half a chance with some good food, guess what?